Jon Jones is a fighter that needs no introduction. Jon is by any metric one of the best fighters to have ever walked the planet, and has laid claim to almost every title you can bestow on those at the top of the game. He is regularly first in the discussion for the greatest fighter of all time, and regarded by many as the true king of the pound-for-pound #1 slot. Often it's his actions outside of the cage rather than inside that are to blame for faltering in these discussions. Coming up on the regional MMA scene, Jon was a preternatural sensation with otherworldly potential, dispatching his opponents with ease, showing an uncanny ability to bully, dominate and finish every opponent that was set in front of him. It was clear that this fighter was one destined for greatness and world titles. Jon started his MMA career to provide for his young family and had what can only be described as a meteoric rise. Having his first fight in April 2008, he rattled off 6 finishes in 6 fights in 4 months and got the usually long-awaited UFC call-up for just his 7th fight. To put it into perspective, between the cage door closing on his MMA debut to hearing Bruce Buffer announce his name in his first UFC fight, there was a grand total of 119 days. Simply unthinkable in this day and age. Jon is often described as undefeated, or basically undefeated. They say he's never lost a fight, and he has fought 28 times and has an official record of 26 to 1. The last one is a no contest after a failed PED test post-fight against Daniel Cormier, in a fight in which he brutally knocked out Cormier, who is another one of the greatest fighters to ever compete in the UFC. The middle one is the one we are here to talk about in this video, the one that is both never talked about and talked about every single time Jon Jones is mentioned. The one and only official loss on Jon Jones' record, the loss against Matt, the Hammer Hamill. Matt Hamill was 6-2 in the UFC coming into this fight with Jon, fresh off a beautiful head kick knockout in his previous fight. A heavily decorated wrestler, he has won multiple gold medals in NCAA Division III Wrestling Championships and in the Deaf Olympics. Matt was born deaf but didn't let that stop him from competing and having an incredible wrestling career, one which earned him the nickname, the Hammer, for his strength and dominant style before he transitioned full-time into MMA. The fight took place in Las Vegas on the Ultimate Fighter Season 10 finale card back in December 2009, with Jon being the heavy favourite due to the buzz around his potential and the dominance shown in his previous fights. The fight started off even though, with Jon soon taking the lead in the striking. They exchange leg kicks and Jon continues to add up strikes to the legs, body and head, going for several spinning attacks and easily stuffing Matt's first and only takedown attempt. Halfway through the first round, they clinch up and Jon's size, strength and technique are on full display as he sets up a leg to the outside and throws Matt to the ground in a devastating trip. The beginning of the end for Matt and also Jon's undefeated record. Jon easily transitions to mount at 2 minutes and 20 seconds left of the first round and immediately starts landing punishing, looping punches. No stopping for a breather, no getting set, no working for a better angle. Jon, within a couple of seconds, starts landing basically fight-ending punches and elbows. This is a component of Jon's early game that was often overlooked. A fighter is often told to remain composed, to get settled, manage the clock in a dominant position, score some points. Jon had an ability to just unleash offense at will without fear of losing position or retaliation. As Joe points out in the commentary from bottom, Matt can't mount any real escape attempts as he's too busy defending. He can't move his hands to frame or try and create separation as they are needed to block the punches. Matt is quickly eating devastating elbows and punches with no way to stop them. Slowing the tape down, I counted 60 strike attempts before Jon finally stops to take a slight rest. The clock reads 1 minute 36, so 60 strikes in 44 seconds. Not all land, but those that do, really do. At this point, blood is pooling into both of Matt's eyes, so now he's concussed, virtually blind, completely deaf, and has the greatest fighter of all time mounted on top of him. So you want to be a fighter? Jon lands another 7 strikes as he pins Matt's left hand behind his head. He looks up at referee Steve Mazzagatti as if to say, "You're going to stop this or what?" He's not defending intelligently. What else do you need to see? He looks at the referee a total of 4 times during the next 20 seconds of ground and pound. With Matt holding both his arms up as his only way of defense, Jon starts throwing elbows straight down from the now infamous 12-6 position. He lands 2, and while Steve yells, "Watch out for those illegal elbows," Jon lands another 2 that split the guard and split Matt's forehead, causing Steve to call time on the action. Now, the 12-6 elbow ban has always been a controversial one. In a sport where you can punch, kick, and knee as hard as you want, banning an elbow strike because it goes straight up and down seems a bit arbitrary at best and completely stupid at worst. Ex-referee John McCarthy explained its creation on the Joe Rogan podcast, as he was in the room when the unified rules were being created. They were talking about throws and slams and agreed that if there was an arc when slamming an opponent down, that was okay, but not a spike or pile drive, as this would generate too much of a downwards force on the head and neck. In turn, they wanted to ban elbows completely, but Jon explained they were already licensed in Muay Thai and they were an essential part of MMA. The doctor who was sitting in said he didn't like those elbows that went straight down, similar to how the spikes throws were just banned. He thought the downward force was too much, as he had seen people on TV smashing concrete bricks and thick blocks of ice with a vertical blow, like in a crazy kung fu film. Jon went to counter this, but was told that he had just had elbows legalized and to let this one ban go as it was as good as he was going to get. So Jon let it go, and the no 12-6 elbows ban was brought into effect by the unified rules. Back to this fight. As the referee is standing Jones up, Joe explains that the vertical 12-6 elbow is banned and not a legal move, and Steve docks Jon 1 point for committing the foul. Steve goes on to ask the downed Matt if he's okay and if he is able to continue. At this point, Matt's eyes are covered in sweat and blood, and obviously being deaf, he is unable to hear the instruction, so it seems extremely quick that he waves the fight off after a few seconds. This part to me is pretty incomprehensible, and the main reason why I can see Steve being at fault for what happened. Not getting Matt's eyes clear, not allowing Matt to try and sit or stand up, not making his questions totally obvious, just not giving him any time. I'm not sure what answer or reaction he was expecting. Matt is clearly rocked but is giving at most 3 seconds to respond to a question he won't have heard before the fight is waved off. Jon reacts by celebrating, somersaulting and bowing, thinking the docked point was the extent of the repercussions for the foul, and the damage sustained up to that point was enough to end the fight, thus rendering him victor. It seems everybody is a bit confused as announcer Goldie exclaims Matt Hamill has been defeated by Jon Jones, with Joe agreeing, detailing out the extensive damage Matt has suffered. It is then revealed after several minutes, to the shock of everybody involved, that Jon has been disqualified due to intentional illegal elbows, and thus Matt wins the fight. The announcers are shocked, Jon opens his mouth in disbelief. Matt still looks concussed but obviously isn't happy. In the post-fight interviews, Matt is extremely humble and admits that Jon did a great job, revealing he injured or dislocated his shoulder at some point in the fight and he couldn't defend himself with one arm. This explanation seems more like the reason he couldn't continue to fight, as he had damaged his shoulder rather than the damage caused by the 12-6 elbows, another reason why the decision seems unjust. If he was allowed time to recover and then admitted his shoulder was compromised, I'm not sure how the decision to end the fight would have gone and what would have happened. Would it have been a DQ loss for Jones, even if the cause of the stoppage wasn't illegal? In subsequent years, Dana White, with support from Joe Rogan, has appealed the decision, stating, "The guy's never lost a fight. That one loss on his record, we're trying to get that overturned." It was at a time and a place in the Nevada State Athletic Commission when it was at its worst. It was the weakest commission ever in the history of Nevada, and the referee that reffed the fight shouldn't have been in there, and he disqualified Jon, which shouldn't have happened either. So hopefully we can get that overturned. Dana blames the commission, the rule of the referee, for losing Jon his deserved undefeated title, and thus an incredible and useful marketing tool for the UFC. An undefeated icon of the sport sells itself in every fight. The majority of the MMA world are in agreement that Jon's loss shouldn't really be a loss. Though at the time, the 12-6 elbow was illegal. No matter how stupid people thought it was, then or now, and Jon did throw and land it in a fight multiple times and his opponent was unable to continue afterwards. Is the rule pointless? Possibly. Could the fight have been stopped earlier? Definitely. Would a different referee have changed the outcome? Well, probably, but we'll never know. Technically, the rules at the time were followed, which resulted in Jon's disqualification loss in this fight. So, that is the story of Jon Jones' first and only official loss on his record. In a fight Jon completed, dominated from start to finish. It makes you wonder, did this in some strange way help Jon become the fighter he became? In his post-fight interview he reflects, "You know what? I've heard so many times that when you lose, you come back a better, stronger person." Maybe this loss and the removal of the undefeated burden made Jon the fighter we all know today. Put your thoughts and comments about this fight and Jon's career down below. Thank you very much for watching.